You can see it on the tape. TPUSA's Chief of Staff, Mikey McCoy, is standing just steps away from Charlie Kirk. A loud bang slices through the air. Mikey doesn't flinch. He doesn't dive. He doesn't freeze. Instead, he coolly lifts a phone to his ear, pivots away, and walks off, all before Charlie even hits the ground. Seconds later, Erika Kirk's on stage, offering her heartfelt thanks to the Turning Point Board, to the emergency team, and to the amazing Mikey McCoy, her husband's right-hand man, the one Charlie once called his brother in spirit. So why does this brother vanish from the scene like it's just another Tuesday meeting? That's the question taking over the internet right now. New footage is circulating, and it's got everyone rattled. In the clip, Mikey is spotted standing just behind the tent when everything goes down, and not even a full second passes before he's already got that phone to his ear. Not frantically dialing, not fumbling, but placing it like he's answering a call he was already expecting. There's something too polished about the timing, too choreographed. Like he knew it was coming, and here's what's catching everyone off guard. He never turns back, never checks on Charlie, never stumbles or stutters or even slows. Just keeps it moving like the loud, jarring noise didn't shake him at all. And online, people are asking the obvious: if you just saw your close friend, your boss, get taken down right in front of you, wouldn't you react? Instead, Mikey walks, calm, composed, phone pressed tight to his head, and while that clip loops on every social media platform imaginable, Erika's out here talking about planning 5 more episodes a week like this is just content calendar maintenance. One viewer said, "It's like your husband was assassinated and you're treating it like a press release. There's no heartbreak, no public meltdown, just polished PR, polite thanks, a weirdly bright smile, and a strange, almost glowing endorsement of Mikey McCoy, the guy who dipped out before the chaos even hit its peak." But it gets worse. Candace Owens dropped a verbal nuke this week, and it blew the lid off whatever cover-up might be swirling behind the scenes. She says Mikey McCoy straight up refused to say who he was on the phone with at that exact moment. No name, no explanation, nothing. And that's not sitting right with anybody. The clip is being dissected second by second. People are sensing background sounds, analyzing lighting, comparing crowd reactions, trying to figure out the exact second Mikey lifts that phone, because that one little move could change everything. Was he warned? Was he passing a signal? Or was he just conveniently absent at the worst possible time? Because here's the thing. In the chaos that followed, Mikey apparently made 2 calls, one to Pastor Rob McCoy, his father, and one to Erika Kirk. That's what they claim. But both of their stories conflict. And worse, they don't match the footage. Pastor Rob said his son immediately called and told him Charlie had been shot in the neck and was covered in blood. He said Mikey sounded shaken, that he was right there in the middle of it all. But hold up, the footage tells a different story. Mikey wasn't close to Charlie. He didn't rush to help. He didn't even appear rattled. He was out of there before most people even realized something had gone wrong. So what gives? And then there's Erika. She claims that as she sat in her mother's hospital room, her phone buzzed. It was Mikey. She says the moment she saw his name, she knew something was wrong. When she picked up, he allegedly said he's been hit. That's her version, but how is that possible? Both Erika and Rob say they got a call at nearly the same time, but neither of them mentions being on a 3-way. Neither says the other was there, and they both got different messages. One says Mikey shouted he's been hit. The other says Mikey gave calm, detailed info about Charlie's throat. Same event, same moment, totally different tone. It's starting to feel like someone's covering tracks. People are zooming into the footage now, frame by frame, looking for anything. And something subtle is making waves. Mikey doesn't touch his screen. He doesn't unlock the phone. He doesn't swipe or search. He just lifts it, like he was already connected. Like someone had called him, and if that's the case, if Mikey wasn't calling out, but answering in, then who called him? And why? That's when things start to spiral. Turning Point finally responded, trying to shut the noise down. Their spokesperson, Andrew Covey, came out swinging. According to him, Mikey wasn't acting strange. He was in total shock. Covey says Mikey didn't walk away. He was just overwhelmed. That the loud bang disoriented him. That he was following a plan Charlie himself had put in place. Call Erika, then call Rob. Simple emergency protocol. Nothing more, but people aren't buying it because if Mikey was so stunned, so lost in the moment, why does he look so put together in the footage? Why is he already on a call before Charlie's knees even give out? And if he was just following instructions, why didn't he check to see if Charlie was even conscious, or bleeding, or alive? How do you report a crisis when you haven't even confirmed there is one? And then there's the blood story. Rob McCoy told reporters Mikey had blood on him, that he was close enough to be sprayed, that he bore the physical aftermath of what happened. But again, the footage, spotless. Mikey is clean, crisp, composed, not a single drop in sight. And that has people asking the hard question. Was the blood detail just a way to paint Mikey as a victim? Was it designed to cover up the fact that he left the scene too early to know anything? Because here's what it looks like now. One story paints Mikey as a traumatized, and what's worse, he never circles back, never asks for updates, never runs toward the SUV where Charlie's being helped in, just stands at a distance, back turned, carrying on like he'd already moved on. Some are calling it eerie, others? Predictable, because the deeper people dig, the more the puzzle shifts. Pastor Rob's teary claims of bloodstains and trauma are now up against high-ray stills showing Mikey crisp, clean, unshaken, not even a wrinkle out of place. And as for Erika, her timeline's not matching anyone else's. In her New York Times interview, she gave a precise timestamp.
And models paid less because they earn about 20 times more than men.
That's when her phone allegedly lit up with Mikey's name. She says her stomach dropped before she even answered. She says he shouted, "He's been hit," into the line. But if you match that time with the footage, something strange happens. The call appears to have already started. People are sensing the timestamps, matching shadows, analyzing digital clocks in the background. And the current theory? Mikey didn't call Erika. He was already on the line with someone else when the shot went off, and that's the part no one can explain. Even crazier, Erika and Rob both insist they got the first call. But if that's true, how can the footage show Mikey on the phone before anything even happened? Unless the call had already been planned, unless someone was expecting a trigger, and that's what's freaking people out. Because, let's say, just for a second, that Mikey got a call before the shot. That would mean someone else was tracking the timeline. Someone knew what was coming, down to the second. And they didn't warn anyone. They didn't stop it. They just picked up the phone and watched it all unfold. So who was on the other end of that line? No one's answering that. Not Mikey, not Rob, not Erika, not TPUSA. All we're getting is vague statements about protocol and shock. But the footage doesn't lie. And neither do body language experts, who are now weighing in with full analyses. One former FBI profiler called Mikey's behavior eerily aligned with premeditated emotional dissociation. Another analyst said his detachment reminded her of individuals trained to remain calm under prearranged threat scenarios. Translation: this isn't how people act when their friend just got hit. This is how they act when they already knew something was going to happen. But here's where it all starts twisting tighter. Remember that viral post on X? The one that claimed Turning Point USA wasn't just a political brand, but a shell funnel for influence trades and donor laundering? Well, now that post is blowing up. People are calling it the missing piece, the reason everything suddenly makes sense. According to the post, Charlie Kirk had started poking around behind the scenes, quietly digging into financials, asking questions, getting suspicious. He'd allegedly discovered donor money being rerouted in strange ways, private equity shifting hands through consulting firms tied to staff, silent partners backing certain candidates with off-the-books endorsements, and then came the rumor. Charlie was planning to speak out. He was going to break ranks, go public, tear down the entire illusion with receipts, names, and numbers. And that's when things started getting tense. Meetings got shorter. Conversations went off the record. People around him got quiet. And now, the theory is exploding. What if Charlie was becoming a liability to the very people he'd helped put on the map? What if the moment he stopped being useful, he became dangerous? And this is where Mikey McCoy Ray enters the spotlight, because Mikey wasn't just Charlie's assistant. He was his shadow, his filter, his day-to-day operator. If anyone knew what Charlie was planning, it was Mikey. So when you see him walk off like nothing happened, when you watch that clip and realize he's already steps ahead of the chaos, it stops looking like coincidence. It starts looking like choreography. And what about Erika? Let's talk about that power pivot. Within days of Charlie's death, she wasn't retreating. She wasn't mourning. She was reorganizing, moving into leadership roles, taking meetings, announcing new content, standing in front of donors like she'd been doing it for years. The speed of the shift was jarring, almost like she knew exactly what to do next. One Reddit thread called it the cleanest coup in conservative media. Another labeled it the Kirk corporate takeover. And honestly, it's hard to argue, because while fans were still crying, while supporters were laying flowers and writing tributes, the machine was already moving forward. Mikey was still in place. Erika was suddenly the voice. And TPUSA was cranking out new episodes like nothing ever happened. People aren't stupid. They're watching. They're seeing through the silence. And now, the pressure is boiling. Who knew what and when? Because if Mikey knew in advance, that's not just weird. That's criminal. And if Erika knew anything at all, then her silence is deafening. And what about Rob? Why claim blood where there was none? Why exaggerate unless there was something that needed to be distracted from? Right now, every word, every clip, every glance is being replayed, analyzed, dissected. And the deeper it goes, the darker it looks, because maybe it wasn't just one phone call. Maybe it was the moment Charlie Kirk stopped being the face of the brand and started being the threat, and now that people are looking closely, really closely, the entire timeline is starting to collapse. Every story, every official account, every polished statement is being ripped apart. Because here's the thing, none of it adds up. Not the calls, not the reactions, not the clean shirts, not the calm exits, not the smiles, nothing. The most damning evidence? The silence. The refusal to explain what should be simple. Why won't Mikey say who he was talking to? Why are there two different versions of what he allegedly said during that mystery call? One panicked and vague, the other weirdly detailed and surgical. And why, if both Erika and Pastor Rob received calls within seconds of the incident, does neither of them mention being on the same line? It's the kind of glitch that only happens when people try to sync a script after the fact. Now, online investigators are going frame by frame with the footage, comparing the timestamp from Erika's New York Times interview, 11:23 a.m., to the actual moment Mikey raises the phone. And what they're finding is disturbing. The phone's already active. No screen lit up, no motion, just straight to the ear. That's not shock. That's precision, that's timing, and that's the exact detail that's breaking the entire narrative in half, because if Mikey didn't initiate the call, someone called him, which opens a door no one at TPUSA seems ready to walk through. Who placed that call? Who knew exactly when it would happen? And most importantly, why Mikey? Why was the chief of staff already mentally disconnected from the man he was supposed to protect? Theories are exploding now. Everything from inside betrayal to silent coup to full-on Operation Cleanup. And the most talked about angle? That Charlie Kirk had finally become inconvenient. That he'd started asking the kind of questions that don't go unanswered without consequence. That he was planning to go public, expose what really goes on behind the velvet curtain of Turning Point. USA, the donor manipulation, the policy laundering. The cushy backroom deals disguised as patriotism. That he had names, financial records, connections that would crumble entire narratives with a single broadcast, and right before he could speak, boom. Gone. Right before he could speak, boom. Gone. The official word is tragedy, but online, people are calling it a silencing, a media sanitization, a strategic reset, and if that's the case, Mikey McCoy's exit becomes something else entirely, not a reaction, a move planned, controlled, clean, and here's where it gets even messier, because in the days following Charlie's collapse, Mikey didn't disappear. He wasn't hospitalized. He wasn't under protection. He was working, talking, coordinating, and Erika? She was rising. In just under 72 hours. She'd stepped into full leadership mode, scheduling new shows, hosting content, appearing on podcasts, giving interviews with perfectly selected phrases like grateful, faithful, and yes, moving forward. 3 days after your husband collapses in front of hundreds of people? That's not grief. That's positioning, and her first public appearance. A smile, a glowing thank you to Mikey McCoy. A weirdly upbeat nod to the man people now believe might have known everything and said nothing. That smile sparked a storm. Clips of it went viral instantly. The tone, the timing, the chill behind the eyes. People described it as off, chilling, almost smug, and as more footage surfaced, people noticed something even more bizarre. Mikey wasn't just thanked once, he was praised repeatedly by Erika, by Frank Turk, by internal voices at TPUSA, all echoing the same line, the amazing Mikey McCoy, the great Mikey MC Coy. As if the narrative was being printed in real time. As if they were building a new image around him, something to distract from the calm, distant, disconnected man in the background of the chaos. The one who never turned around. It's all starting to feel way too controlled, way too polished, like roles were assigned before anything happened. And now the phrase media laundering is taking over the forums. The theory? TPUSA's biggest insiders, the board, the influencers, the trusted staff, were already briefed, not on what happened, but on how to respond. Mikey stays close. Erika takes the reins. The story is shaped, controlled, softened. The audience never notices the fracture. Until now, because people aren't buying it. Not anymore. And that brings us to the X thread that's burning up the timeline, the one that ties it all together. According to this now viral post, Charlie had started questioning major internal donations, the ones that didn't have clear sources, the ones that mysteriously showed up through consultants, rooted through LLCs, tied to political operatives with offshore ties. And not just questioning, documenting. The thread claims he was preparing a live segment, a tell all. He was going to name names, reveal who was really pulling the strings, which politicians were laundering policy through turning point events, which donors were funding patriotic campaigns with foreign cash, which staff members were aware and which were participating, and then he's gone. No warning, no explanation. Just a loud noise, a body hitting the floor, and Mikey walking away, already on the phone, already out. It's the kind of sequence that doesn't feel like coincidence. It feels like choreography. It feels like betrayal. The kind that happens not in a moment of rage, but through a calculated silence. A look, a nod, a phone that rings exactly when it needs to, and while Erika gives speeches. And Mikey stays behind the curtain, and the official accounts keep shifting. The internet is piecing together a different version. One that doesn't look like an accident, one where Charlie Kirk didn't just collapse, he was removed. By the people closest to him. By the people who smiled through it. The people now running his legacy. So now the pressure is boiling. People want answers. From Erika, from Rob, from TPUSA, but most of all, from Mikey McCoy. What was on that call? Who made it? And how, in a room filled with chaos, did Mikey stay so calm? Because here's the part no one can unsee. He never looked back. Not once. Not when Charlie staggered. Not when security rushed in. Not when the SUV pulled up. Not even when blood was confirmed. He stayed locked into that phone, eyes forward, voice low. And if he didn't look, how did he know what to report? How did he know who to call? Unless he already knew the script, unless that moment, the shot, the stumble, the fall wasn't shocking at all. Just expected. And if even part of that theory is true, then we're not just looking at a tragedy. We're staring at one of the most carefully executed political betrayals in recent conservative history. A setup, a silence, a legacy rewritten in real time, and now it's up to the people, to you, to decide what really happened, because something about this story isn't just off. It's chilling, and trust me, this isn't the final chapter. It's only the beginning. So tell us what you think. Drop your theories in the comments, tag your friends, and don't forget to hit subscribe, because whatever's coming next, it's going to change everything. It's going to change everything.